Which movie villain do you agree with? Gordon Ramsay from Kitchen Nightmares. GR falls squarely in the anti-hero category. Think the Punisher but for tyrus chewer and owners. I heard he's actually really nice in real life. He just plays up the raging a-hole stuff for the ratings. He's nice in any non-American show or to anyone who isn't being a dumb F. The editors make him seem worse than he is for the American version of Kitchen Nightmares, while he's much nicer in the British version. He's really nice to anyone who's trying to do better and rude to people who aren't going to try. I agree with Ken from the Bee Movie. His GF got pissed at him for trying to kill a bee, something that he was allergic to, meaning it was potentially life-threatening. Frankly, Vanessa was terrible for dumping him because he tried to kill an insect. It's like getting mad at someone for refusing shrimp because they have a shellfish allergy. I know he's not the main villain, but he was the secondary one. If Vanessa left him for a goddamn bee, then maybe they're better off without each other. Yes, that was insane. Captain Hook. If a little boy chopped off your hand and fed it to a crocodile, you'd probably want to kill him too. Didn't he only get his hand chopped off because he was trying to kill the boy? To add insult to injury, he had to get a used hook from a second-hand store. Magneto. He always thought humans would try to destroy mutants, and he was right because they tried. He might have not been completely right, but man, it's hard not to feel some sympathy for him after the shitty hand that life dealt him early on. The dad from Dirty Dancing. He was just trying to keep his underage daughter from effing the local troublemaker. T-Rex from Jurassic Park. Also, the Indominus Rex. You made a living kill machine, with abilities that far exceed those of your measures to control it, and expect it to live its life in a small cage like a cat? Heck, even cats won't stay in cages. Can confirm. Our cat was purchased swinging from the top bars of the cage upside down, yelling at 8 weeks old. We picked the psycho. Best decision. I was so irritated when I watched the movie. You make a monster amalgamation of mega predators, you give it opposable thumbs, and then you gave it a stealth mode, and then you stuff it in a tiny paddock it barely fits in, away from any social contact. Why the F did you think this was a good idea? The Grinch. He just wants to live alone in his gaff with a dog and the Who people won't stop bothering him. And if you're going by the movie logic, then he was bullied as a kid by his classmates and teacher, adopted, and lost his crush to the person he hates the most. No wonder he hates people. Dr. Freeze. The guy just wanted to find a way to save his wife. Batman even once tried to help him with it. So many Batman villains either got the shend of some stick or another, or were just really misunderstood and trying to get through with disordered thinking. Part of the reason I love Batman stories. Doc Ock. I'm not saying that I'd sooner rob a bank than beg for grant money, but I get where he's coming from. I just like how that movie was made in the 2000s but still had Ock carrying sacks with out of the bank and throwing them at Spidey. Colonel Kurtz. We train young men to drop fire on people, but their commanders won't allow them to write F on their airplanes because it's obscene. At the recruitment station I went to, I got pulled aside and lectured for saying B back in high school and getting detention for it. Like, lady, you're hiring me to kill people. Didn't actually get through with the process, but still. Chill the heck out. Surely the issue would be a potential disrespect of authority. That doesn't go down well in the forces. Mutuo. Making stronger versions of existing Pokémon is basically the point of Pokémon breeding. But if he wasn't stopped, he probably would have killed all of humanity. Mew would have saved us eventually. If not, I have Mega Gyarados and Arcray that can help out. I watched only the intro to the Pokémon movie and nothing more. All I saw was the very serious intro with dramatic music and no jokey or light content whatsoever, where Mewtwo explodes a science lab and kills a bunch of scientists. And that's no joke about 75% of the narrative understanding I have of the entire Pokémon mythos. Everything else I know about it is that there's a dinosaur that wears its mom's head, and Professor Oak is F-ing your mom. If I'm understanding these memes correctly, in a way Pokémon seems dope, I think. General Grievous. His people were massacred by the Jedi for reasons that were false. He was then physically crippled for the rest of his life, outside of his exoskeleton, and was told that the Jedi were to blame. He destroyed as many as he could and took their weapons as a trophy to exact his revenge for the Jedi ruining his life and pushing his people to the brink of extinction. He's one of my favorite characters. Interesting character and backstory. Agreed. It's a shame how weak he seems and rots. Thank goodness 2003 Clone Wars is a thing. It's even more tragic than that, when Count Dooku and the intergalactic banking clan offered to rebuild him as a cyborg. Grievous agreed on the condition they didn't alter his mind, but they did anyway. So while Grievous believed that he'd always been the cold-blooded Jedi hunter into the past, he probably wasn't as extreme as he is during the Clone Wars. Not a movie, but Robbie Rotten from Lazy Town. As an adult, you get it. You want sleep, you want cake, you want quiet, you want to be lazy. There were moments where you could be like, I feel ya bro, and of course, deep down there, you want to be the number one. Now listen closely. Similar with Squidward, the older you get the more you can relate to him and feel bad that he can't just be happy. Poison Ivy, all she wants is more plants and less destruction. In No Man's Land she moves into Central Park I think and just stays there. No crime boss approach, no city takeover, just walks into the park. Batman goes into the park, walks back out and suddenly the city starts getting fed by these fast growing plants. I don't remember if they explained that part, but of the villains in the Batman universe she's usually the least tyrannical, I think is the best way to say that. Batman made a deal with her essentially. He wouldn't take her to the prison for her previous crimes, help protect her territory in No Man's Land as long as she would grow food for the populace. Hades would not be too happy if I was forced to rule over hell by my younger siblings. Wicked Witch of the West. Also, Glinda was pretty evil. She knew all along that Dorothy could have gone home 5 minutes after arriving in Oz. She basically manipulated Dorothy into going on that journey just so she could use her to have the Wicked Witch of the West killed. Luke Skywalker. I mean, obviously he was a terrorist insurgent bent on destroying critical infrastructure, but you can't blame him for his resent about the unfortunate incident with his aunt and uncle. I like it when writers give the villain a convincing motive like that. Having him succeed ultimately was really a bold narrative choice on George Lucas's part. Having Darth Vader suddenly switch teams and let the villain win was a bit much. For me it's Palpatine. His religious views were outlawed so he kept them to himself, then used the established political system to lawfully become ruler and change things for the better. Wait, are we talking about heroes or villains? He's clearly a hero, so my bad if this is the wrong thread. Hades. Not in any specific movie, but just the fact that he's always a villain despite him just chilling in the underworld, doing his job, and not causing mass genocide, like the other gods. The worst thing he did was kidnap a teenage girl, but compared to Zeus, the hero in all these damn movies, he's not that bad. Agreed. The vilification of Hades is ridiculous. It's probably because, with the Christianization of Western culture and our general discomfort with the concept of mortality, Hades gets rewritten to be a death god, even though that honor belongs to Thanatos, or something equivalent to the devil, and I genuinely hate it. Dr. Doofenshmirtz, no need explain. Well, I'm gonna do it anyways. Dr. Heinz Dufenschmertz was born to parents who failed to even show up for said birth. Eventually, they did begin raising him, and got a dog, who his father named on Lyson. Eventually, they started expecting a baby girl, so his mother sewed a mountain of dresses. This baby turned out to be a boy, who they named Roger, because all the cloth was used on the dresses. They gave Roger Heinz his clothes, and Heinz had to wear all the dresses. Later, when Heinz refused to jump from a high-rise diving board, his family was so embarrassed that his mother and father refused to acknowledge him for an extended period of time. He was then raised by ocelots for a while. This time made him an ocelot by law, and needed money, so he started working in a carnival's dunk pool, but not as the guy getting dunked. He was working as the thing thrown at the target. He managed to buy a balloon, named it Balloony, and he sprayed it with lifelong everlasting spray. Then, after being accepted back into his family, his father's lawn gnome was repossessed, and so, they had him work as the lawn gnome, unallowed to move or eat. It was here that he accidentally let slip of Balloony, who was lost to the night sky. When he was 16, his parents sent him to get groceries, but the store they sent him to was a cardboard cutout in front of a boat in a successful attempt to ship him elsewhere. Then, for a couple years, he made several fantastic machines to get petty revenge. but always being thwarted by his own incompetence and or his secret agent platypus archenemy. Recently, he quit his attempted evil and have been living with complete strangers whose son is a living disaster zone. The fact that he's petty about all this, rather than so much worse, is amazing, and that's still cutting most of his backstory. I kind of understand the Ice King's motives. He's just really lonely and he wants to be friends with Finn and Jake and he wants a GF. However, kidnapping people isn't cool. He's also just a really great character. He started out as Simon and then slowly went insane after he found the crown and put it on. He forgot his entire identity and became the Ice King. Ice King's desire for princesses stems from half-remembered echoes of Simon's old girlfriend, Betty. Even his insanity was a conscious decision, a sacrifice he made after putting on the crown to save young Marceline. The wolves in The Day After Tomorrow, just some hungry bois doing their best. The real villains of that movie were the fools who burnt the antique books for warmth rather than literally everything else in the room, including replaceable books. There was a whole section of tax law. Not from a movie but Scar from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Buddy had all his people pretty much wiped out by the government and then targets government alchemists in revenge. Brotherhood did such a good job with setting up Scar as a villain, and then slowly revealing the truth about the Ishvalan Civil War. Megamind, but if you were to say that he wasn't a villain then Hal BC, he's right, there is no Queen of England. He wasn't a villain. He was a supervillain. Maybe I don't want to be the bad guy anymore. I'm bad and that's good. I will never be good and that's not bad. Chief Inspector Dreyfus from the Pink Panther movies, maybe I wouldn't have gone as far as he did, but I understand his frustration. Well, I'm not sure if it was the exact same character, but in A Shot in the Dark, the first movie, he purposeful lie assigns Inspector Clouseau to the case because he's being paid off, so he puts the most incompetent man he has on the job. So I think it's established that he's a straight up bad dude. Barbossa and his crew from Part 1. They found a bunch of gold coins sitting around, traded them as currency like anyone would, and were severely punished for no good reason. If you think about it, had the rum runners not showed up, Jack would have starved to death or shot himself on the island he was marooned on. So I'd say that Barbossa's mutiny was cause for punishment. The iceberg from Titanic. My favorite line from Titanic was Billy Zane trying time to say the famous line, God himself could not sink this ship, and being interrupted halfway through. Well done, Jim Cameron. The machines from the Matrix. The humans attacked first, going as far as blocking out the sun to end them. The machines create a new reality for the humans that is much better than the alternative of living in the sewers in the real world. The only reason Agent Smith became problematic was because Neo gave him new code. I really wanted the actual story to turn out that the machines recognized we had met the threshold our planet could survive and that we were doomed. They stuck us in pods while they waited for the doomed Earth to heal, essentially WALL-E. They continued to breed us, but in simulation so we could still have choices in propagation. They tried to make a paradise. We rejected it. So they made Earth as nice as possible and tried to give our species the tools it needed to continue developing our culture. They left humans outside of the Matrix to serve as a control group. I think it would have been more compelling if the outliers were the result of the machines trying to leave as much intellectual autonomy in place as possible, and dealing with an occasional neo-unacceptable annoyance to keep humanity's free will. This is my canon as well. They realized we destroyed everything and saved us from extinction and cultural atrophy. A superhuman army wouldn't want or need to destroy humanity. It would see us as the children we are and save us from ourselves.